No, not really. Yep, we're back. In the meantime, with me and Dave, this is episode number 8. Andrew Roberts, not WrestleMania edition. This is number 8. Andrew Roberts. Just recycling paper. That's right. And we're here. This is, I think I said it already, episode 8, Andrew Roberts, like I pointed out earlier. This is an interesting test. This isn't a test run. This is an interesting test, being that Andrew Roberts, good friend of mine, former co-host of the old podcast, In the Meantime podcast, on FCC Unfree Radio. This is a giant test of Andrew's patience. Andrew was scheduled to be guest number 7 in this very room. And we were to have done this about 3 weeks ago. And unfortunately, after I made the mistake of showing Andrew footage of one of the episodes, Andrew we were having a great day. He let me stay the night over here after a gig up north, and had an excellent time. He was very hospitable, but as soon as he heard less than 10 seconds of my voice at the beginning of one of these episodes, Andrew grew fairly, I wouldn't say so much hostile as just, oh, this isn't just another one of you're just talking, So, this is not just a test of his patience. This is a test of me, Mean Dave, your host of the In the Meantime with Mean Dave tubecast, where, yes, I am required to talk. We're going to see how much I can not talk and let Andrew, after a good, hard day's work, he got up at 5:30 this morning. It is now almost midnight on a Friday night. We just came from an open mic at Mutiny Radio in San Francisco. We're in San Francisco still. We had a burrito. We're full, well fed, and Andrew's had a good number of beers, so he's nice and surly. So this is straight from Australia, straight out of Australia, Andrew Roberts. So give a round of applause. So you can applaud if you're at home. So Andrew Roberts, a good friend of mine who's been doing comedy. Go ahead, 200 words or less. Give him your life story. Go.
I was born and had a head for comedy. I wanted to be an actor, but good-looking people were always stealing my thunder. So I got into comedy, and I didn't do too well in Australia because I was too surly. And then I met a woman, fell in love, moved to America. I'm like, maybe, it's Australia's fault that I'm not liked. I'll come to America and they'll appreciate my style. And it turns out that I'm a dick. And they said that in America too. So, if lightning strikes twice, it's probably where it should land. I'm a dick and trying to get better. I'm not proud. So, I do comedy with Mean Dave, who's doing, amazing stuff these days.
That's amazing.
He came second in Rooster Teeth Feathers.
It's a comedy competition, an amateur comedy competition. Yeah, coming in second at Rooster Teeth Feathers was pretty cool. After 4 years of doing it, a lot of people come in second, first place on year 1 or year 2, if they're, whatever. But it took a little while longer to beat people who started in their first and second and third years. So I was just glad to get to the finals.
You did really well.
It was good. It was fun. But that's enough about me. I don't want to be talking too much. Andrew, here. From Australia. He was mentioning Andrew's being modest. Okay? Because, again, it's late. He just was not expecting to do this. He wanted to do this in the morning over coffee. I said, no. Now's the time. I got to get up early to go do I get to do a comedy set at 8 in the morning at a 24-hour comedy show, which I'm sure is going to be great, all 24 fucking hours of it, at Lost Weekend Video here in San Francisco at the Cynic Cave. And then after that, I get to go roast Rolando Roblero, one of the masters of peace and quiet in an audience out at Berkeley Rep. After that,
I saw Rolando Roblero is the reason.
He's a comedian. Well, he attempts comedy. Sorry, Rolando Roblero, but
he's the reason comics have to pay $5 to go to the Punchline.
Which is why I love
Sunday.
Because of Rolando Roblero, my first time at the Punchline in San Francisco, I was getting ready. I'm gonna do my set, and he sits next to me. He goes, I'm going up tonight, and I wanted to stop him and say, don't, because he'd been doing comedy about a year, but in that year, I want to say he'd been doing comedy. He'd been attempting comedy. He means well, and there's potential there for something if he ever thought it through or came to the stage with an idea. What he does is he gets on stage and he rambles, which I used to do too. So I recognize it. He would ramble without conceding that he has no point and he's got nothing. He wouldn't, and occasionally it'll get laughs, but the only people who found it funny would be other new comedians who were thinking and basically projecting way too much onto him than he actually was doing. It would be the equivalent of a guy showing up to a movie shoot who didn't read the script, who has no idea what his character is, and just is gonna wing it without any knowledge of what the hell the scene or anything else, and barely doing anything. And that's what he does every time on stage. But I still love him for the fact that he pisses off so many aspiring comedians. Can't hate him for that. And he's a nice guy. That combined with being a nice guy. And now he's moving to New York.
Double your bets. If you're gonna lose, the way you stay in the game is you just keep on doubling your bets.
Yeah, go big.
Go big.
And tomorrow night, he's having a roast before he leaves. They're roasting him at the Berkeley Rep Theater, which I am looking forward to going to do. Because really, you can't really roast a guy who's again. He went up at the Punchline on this one particular night, and is probably one of the handfuls of performers I've seen in the times I've been there who got no laughs. Almost no laughs.
It was awkward because all the comedians were laughing.
Not all of them. No, actually only two were laughing. Jason Dove and Tim Young.
Okay.
Yeah. These were all aspiring comedians, by the way. You never heard of them.
I kind of felt as if the audience who paid $50 on average...
No, they paid $10 to get in there.
I thought it was $24 with the 2-drink minimum.
Well, no, here's the thing. No, for a Sunday night showcase, it's $12, like $10 or $12, and they have to buy the 2 drinks, which basically altogether it's about $25, $30. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the drinks are so fucking expensive at the Punchline.
Yeah. So you pay $25 to have a guy go on stage and not give a shit, and then have all the comedians laugh at him at your expense after you just worked all week to afford to listen to.
And to be fair, the Sunday night comedy showcases at San Francisco Punchline are pretty much a gangbang of everybody who is doing comedy in that area, from all walks of experience. The professional comedians think of it as an open mic. The people who are aspiring to get on those stages regularly look at it as an opportunity to prove themselves. So it's a nice combination of awkward and desperation at that level. But yes, Rolando Roblero is a guy who really just
broke them all.
Fucked it up for all of the people that are trying to get on that stage. And I love him for it, because I got on that stage that night, and after they instituted the $5 charge, I didn't have to pay because I was on that stage already. So
I did not have the same.
No, have you been on that stage yet?
Fortune, no.
You really got to email the lady over there.
That's my white whale.
Yeah.
I really have a problem with corporate America.
I heard that, but I mean, you'll do fine over there. This guy's very funny. If you haven't seen it, you could look up Andrew Roberts' stand-up comedy, and you'll probably find him on there. One of the clips actually on YouTube is you performing while the cops were rolling in through a show at a show I produced in Redwood City at the Mardi Gras. So,
it was a good time.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm sure there's times like that still ahead.
So you mentioned you wanted to be an actor at one point. Is this correct? You mentioned
I started in theatre.
In theatre, and this was in Australia, I assume.
Yeah.
Yes. So, explain some of your background in theatre.
I just started off. I did a weekend intensive at the VCA, Victorian College of the Arts, and just wanted to, get involved again in some form or another in performance art. So I've probably been doing performance art for 10 years, but only comedy for about 5.
So I like how you differentiate between performance art and comedy.
There's a difference.
There is a difference.
Just because you're on stage doesn't make you a comedian.
Exactly. And one of the things, when I've seen Andrew perform, he's one of the people, again, when you watch stand-up comedy people who perform, you get a sense of who's been on stage and comfortable, who can make you laugh, and, you know, there's people that you gravitate towards. And Andrew was somebody who I enjoyed watching on stage and who I liked talking to, and it wasn't just his accent. But he's...
But you do really well.
I don't do it that well, not anymore. I haven't seen you as much. But Andrew, actually, one of my early jokes I would do because we did a lot of mics and shows together. If I had to follow him, I did an impression of a conversation that we had at one of my old open mics at a place called the Hukilau, which is now no longer there. And he goes, you know what, Dave? This is gonna be a horrible version of you because I haven't tried to do it in a while. Yeah, it's rusty. But you know what, Dave? You do good impressions. You ought to do that in your act. And I would do that after what if he did a set earlier, because you couldn't do this joke if nobody knows what he fucking sounds like. So it'd normally be after he did a set or if he's hosting something. And then the other thing they said was based on something he told me in the car one time when I was ranting and raving the way I do. He said, and this is like just a kind of a general, or what do they call this, a synopsis of what he said. But oh yeah, and you know all that shit you do in the car, all that, what do you call it, bitching and complaining. You should do that in your act too. And that was based on, I was ranting about, I would drive him, complain a lot, and just, you know, in asinine ways, and he would be laughing at something, and he goes, that's good, if you thought you should do that as a joke. I'm like, that's not a joke, I'm fucking, you know, whatever. And starting to realize that part of my act was the Donald Duck syndrome of blah 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 blah. You know? Yeah. And what's funny, the I guess it's not an irony, but the odd thing being that after all this time, Andrew will still, if I'm not in character as much tonight because I'm really I'm letting him, I realize he's had beers in his system, okay, and I am not running the risk tonight of being what he has referred to as a cockhead. No cockhead free Friday night tonight. And I want you to tell the story of where cockhead, how the word cockhead, like, how did you know, is cockhead a term that's used a lot in Australia?
It's like a dickhead.
I kind of figured it was like a dickhead, but
hate-filled. More
hate-filled, and the way he says cockhead, this was again one of my first experiences with Andrew that reminded me of a guy that I grew up with that he reminds me of. My old my old drummer, Dennis, in a band called Snowy Plover. We were good friends in music. Well, actually, I wouldn't say we were good friends. We were brothers. And because brothers can get pissed off at each other more than friends. He used to hate that. I would say that. He goes, we're friends. I'm like, well, we're more like brothers because brothers can hate each other. And still, that's like family. He didn't understand until years later what I meant. Mm-hmm. He would still get mad at me about that. You know, he's like, you know, fuck Dave. You know, we're not friends. And didn't understand it meant on a deeper level. But, you know, they hear what they want to hear. But one night we went. This was in the early days of our 4-year in America comedy. We went to Sacramento. You, myself, one of the other old co-hosts of In the Meantime with me and Dave on the old podcast, Keon Cobra, he drove. Yeah, like a sucker. And Chris Shapakazi, who is notorious open mic, infamous at the open mics, and a very funny, or love him or hate him kind of comedian. I might have mentioned him on the show before. But we went to Sacramento and hit 3 mics that night. Yeah. It was we went to the...
It was a country sort of...
It was the place, yeah, it was a hip-hop country bar that was Stony Inn.
Only in America.
Stony Inn, it was the Stony Inn or Stony something or whatever. Then we went to Po' Boys, which was a bar.
That wasn't bad.
That wasn't bad either. And then the last one was the one where
The zoo, wasn't it?
This was Boxing Donkey.
Or was it?
The Boxing Donkey. And these are open
rough.
mics. Some of these I think were going on. It wasn't as rough as it seemed. It was rough to us just because after the other two open mics where there was at least a few other people there, we walk in and there's a handful of people at this last one. Some people are in the, it's an Irish bar or some kind, and they're having some, there's some loud talk in the back area, but there's a few people enjoying the show. But poor Andrew here, he goes up to do his set, and during his set, a guy who had he was a black dude with a shaved mohawk, who's small, he's talking or he's doing something that's been annoying the security bouncer who's right next to where Andrew's performing. And he's right there, and the guy, the security guy, that's it, you're out of here, and kicks the guy out right in this small bar. We're all like in the same room. It's very small, and this was all during Andrew's set. And Andrew, well, I'll let you tell the story. Why don't you tell him?
Didn't he let him back in?
Yes, he did. That was even the funniest part. Yeah,
he
didn't kick him out
guard
completely.
Didn't want to do his job. They were in cahoots.
Yeah.
The security guard and the biggest heckler were running a con on me.
I think the heckler was like more, I think he was hitting on chicks. There was two lesbians that were sitting watching the thing, and I think that dude was trying his best to hit on them loudly while we were trying to tell jokes to them.
Yeah. And I think I did a Larry David, didn't I?
You did something where you just said, that's it, I'm done. Like, it was a minute and a half into his set. And he gave, and not only that, we all had fairly decent sets at the rest of the place, except for Keon. Because
I was on a high personally. Yeah, I was like, I'm doing pretty well.
We were doing pretty good that night. We had a good night of mics. And, so he did that, and then I also had been drinking this night. Had a few. Back in the day. And so I sit next to him after I do my set, which I'm sure I thought went better than it actually did.
No, you did do well.
I did okay. But it was funny because I sit next to him, and I'm not aware, because I was not able to read this gentleman the way I can now, a little bit better. But Andrew was in full-on fury mode. And I sit next to him, and I made a reference. I asked him something, and I made a reference to one of his jokes.
That might have been it.
Yeah, I made a reference to one of his jokes as a callback, and poor Andrew here was, the way he was seeing it is that I'm sitting next to him talking shit to him through his own jokes.
What I thought.
And he turns to me and he goes, "Quit!" He goes, "You're acting like a cockhead."
Fucking cockhead.
A fucking cockhead. You're being a fucking cockhead. And I said, I'm like, I'm totally.
You're a little caught off guard.
Yeah, I said, did I hear this correctly? Did I hear this right?
Know.
I'm not sure if I heard this correctly. And I turned. I said, did you just call me a cockhead? And he goes, yes, I did.
Like a
you're
snake.
being a fucking cockhead. And after that, I was a little butthurt. A little. I was pretty butthurt.
It was a little out of left field.
And I went outside, and I didn't even want to see the last guy, who, from what I understand, was hilarious.
You sat outside.
I sat outside, and I smoked a cigar. I think I had a cigar on me that night. And I smoked a bowl or whatever, and I was just like, wow, I can't escape the it reminds me of my friendship with Dennis all over again, because Dennis would snap on me.
A little rough.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where I'm like, reliving old friendships that went south too, and all fun and games. But then the funniest part about it was we had to be in the same car for an hour and a half home, and nobody said shit.
That was a long ride.
It was a long, quiet ride listening to Wu-Tang songs.
Do you remember what you did when the car got back to the car park?
Yeah, I gave him back. I said,
because you were borrowing a book.
I was borrowing a book from your wife.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll make sure I get your book back to you soon. And I could tell how bad.
You gave it back.
Oh, I did give it back. Oh, I gave you back I said
before he'd read it.
Yeah, I didn't even read. I said, here, you can have the book back. I don't,
it was
whatever.
Like a token that I'd given him as a
sign of friendship, good faith.
And he's like,
and I'm like, I don't want it. I don't want. It was Beyond a Pale Horse, or Behold a Pale Horse, or whatever the William whoever book about conspiracy theories, and he's since divorced that wife. So that's all.
It was all her fault.
Yeah, it was really. Let's blame Katie. I don't like seeing all these pictures. Oh, we got to see the video here. Anyway, I hate it when it goes in. Whenever I do that, my computer's going into sleep mode. I record these on my computer. If you're following in the meantime, tubecast, you should already know this information. But let me clarify for any new viewers, because you never know when Andrew Roberts' fan base is going to be checking this shit out. So, so I want to let's have another thing. You've been doing comedy you were doing comedy before you came to America, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and you came to America. What year did you get here?
2010. The end of 2010.
So it was 2010, because that was when I started seeing him around. I met him outside the Punchline on a Sunday night when none of the newcomers were allowed in, if I'm correct.
I remember sitting outside.
I was there with my drummer, Crazy Eric, the other half of Bad Touch, my old band where this stupid stage name of mine came from, and I met him outside of there, and I think I remember telling you, I remember asking Eric, hey, doesn't he look like Dennis? And Eric goes, no, and he's not the only one who thinks not. But it's funny because I'm not saying, like, if you saw my friend Dennis, he's just got these squinty eyes, and Andrew is a much more jovial character than my friend Dennis was, and Dennis had his good time, good ways, but Andrew comes up with jokes, and not only that, but I remember when you came here, you really enjoyed the comedy scene compared to what it was in Australia.
Yeah, I thought I'd found the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, because I remember that was I think you used those words.
Yeah, I really did. At the time, thought I'd found this supportive community of comedians who were always going to help one another and never do anything negative.
And then 4 years later, have you found that?
I found it, but I've had to work a lot harder to get it. Like, there are people you need to avoid, and there are people who will help you out.
Has any of your opinion of people changed over the years?
I didn't really have a realistic opinion of Americans when I got here. I really did think the whole thing was made up. I thought I was living in a fantasy land and a film. I watched a lot of films as a kid, so when Americans would talk to me or get angry, I'd be like, this is amusing.
Seems like a movie, huh?
Yeah, it does. Like, people would be like, God, I fucking hate you, dude. And I'd be like, well, you want my gun and my badge? I mean, do you want me to, pound the beat? Do I have to go back to the pavement? And all that sort of stuff. But after the divorce and my wife punching me repeatedly in the face.
Wow, I did not know that.
And all that, and the possibility of being homeless. It's like, yeah, this is real. These people are real people with real emotions, and I live here now. I can't go home. So this is my life now. So once it's like the Shawshank Redemption. Once those bars slam shut behind you and it sinks in, then you start to take things a little bit more seriously.
And that's one of the things I will say that I can't imagine being making the trip after making a life commitment, coming to this country, and then because that's actually I have enough trouble with relationships as is, and the fact that you made a bond with somebody that brought you here. Away from your native homeland, and now that bond is broken, and yes, you're stuck in her territory, I guess if you want to say. And I always thought she was from Australia. That was the strangest thing.
She's American. Yeah,
she's American. She seemed Australian to me, even though she was American. She's from Florida, which to me is just as might as well be down under. It's a crazy little fucking area right there.
No offense to anyone down under.
Oh yeah, exactly. Florida sucks. But again, one of the things that we were discussing earlier, having because one of the things that Andrew knows me very well, alcohol playing its role in comedy, or aspiring comedy, as I like to say, because none of us are fucking making a living at this yet, but how much alcohol has played a role in either stifling people's progress or confusing or distorting people's just being in doing this, because we were discussing somebody who recently I had if anybody who knows my Facebook page, and anybody who's known it for lengths of time knew that when I used to get shit faced, not just drunk, but I'd get high or whatever. I love nothing more than a good Facebook beef or a Facebook battle. And it wasn't that I went in and of itself. It was the fact that I liked taking out. Oh wow, your dog's snoring. That's cool.
Is that gonna
sounded like an alarm.
Is that gonna upset the podcast?
No, not at all. No, he's got a dog. Dog doesn't. I'm just glad your dog does not, want any screen time or whatever. Dogs love attention. We've had dogs crash the show before. But no, the fact that on Facebook, it's a very easy way to passive aggressively. Those who can't do very well will overcompensate through internet, social media, all those kinds of things, and a lot of people would enjoy, not to say that they encouraged it, but they would enjoy seeing me drag people into all these different. I used it like wrestling, the way wrestlers use wrestling, partly truth, partly fiction. But people would really get upset, and especially if they didn't know I was kidding. That was the thing that mostly, because people that I would expect to know I was kidding didn't think I was kidding, and then people who I would think didn't think I was kidding actually knew I was fucking around. Or some people who've even assumed that I was fucking around when I was actually being honest sometimes, which is always a plus too. But Andrew, one of the things, Andrew, as I got to know him, do you think you've been drinking more since doing comedy? Because I don't remember you drinking as much. Or was this an Australian thing that, because I know Australians drink, you handle your beer pretty well. I think.
Yeah, I've been running some experiments. Like I did the Stalk one week and I was drunk and I went on stage and I was like, I hate you all. And I was like, I should not drink anymore. So the next week I didn't drink and I went up on stage and I went, I hate you all. And I was like, it's not the booze. I have a job. I started working full time.
Mm-hmm.
I was drinking. I vomited all over my bed on Wednesday. I can only work 3 days, and then I vomited all over my bed, and I didn't have time to clean it up, so I slept in my vomit till Sunday.
Yeah,
and then the next week I'm like, well, I'm gonna quit drinking, and I got to Wednesday night, and instead of vomiting, I wanted to kill myself. So I don't really think alcohol is my as another comedian said, drugs aren't my problem.
And that's but more or less one of the things that because we were discussing another person who we've noticed has difficulties. Not so much. I mean, he has difficulties with alcohol, whatever. Blah 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 blah. There's a host of an open mic who's hosted, and he's done things, whatever. All are that I wouldn't name him, but it's very. I just had to block him today on Facebook because this is a guy who I've done and given cocaine to at a club after an open mic, and he claims that never happened. And I didn't hallucinate the shit because cocaine's expensive. I remember wherever that shit went, especially if it wasn't up my nose. And
someone owes you a favor.
No, it's just I'm just remembering. I remember there was a chick that was there that he was totally creeping on that ended up giving me a kiss on the cheek, goodbye or whatever. Who knows? But and on top of that, he also when I said I felt one time when he was behaving again really irrationally, I once told him I feel sorry for your kids. On my old podcast, he was also had a show there too. He called the station manager and claimed that I threatened him and his kids. To which the station manager called me and I said, I don't know what he's fucking talking about. I'm sitting right here. All I said was when he was yelling at me about something, I said, you know what? I feel sorry for your kids. And how that is a threat to feel compassion for children who have no choice in the matter over their father, who will lock himself in his room to smoke weed, thinking that hiding from his own children, smoking weed when they know damn well he's smoking weed in his bedroom. You're the dad. Smoke weed like a man in front of your kids. Okay, that's what they know you're doing it. And the fact is, those kids were very much better, bigger adults in many ways, but I learned what father I didn't want to be by watching them. with anything, and also what comedian I don't want to be. Well, this guy in two days this past week, this is one of these dudes who's in denial, not just about whatever bad habits or whatever, but in denial about bad comedy that he's consistently brought in doing in there's such a having no self-awareness or having a very little or a distorted sense of self-awareness is really unhelpful if you're actually pursuing seriously doing stand-up comedy.
It's one of the most important things.
It is. It's vital. It's vital. And Andrew, it reminds me of when I would drink and or get high or whatever, because Andrew knows what he does. Am I right? You do know what you're doing. I mean, you know what you're doing when you're doing.
I understand when people are upset.
Yeah, and if you do happen to do anything that seems out of character or is based on, you tend to be. For instance, one thing I can joke with him about, I mean, that we laugh at. We both once after a show that I drove him to in Livermore, we decided, hey, we're having a good night. Let's go get some drinks afterwards, and we go to the bar. Around the corner. We've been drinking earlier that night. We had some beers and we were enjoying the night. So we go adjourn to another bar, and there we are up in the ante having some shots. And somehow a conversation, and again, this is, remember, I talked a lot, still talk a lot. Somehow the conversation I brought up, or either I brought up or the subject of George Carlin came up. And what was... I'm sure you have the same opinion, sober, or you're, I mean, not sober, but you're sober enough. Mm-hmm. Sure you have the same opinion. Tell your opinion of George Carlin.
I think he's a misanthrope.
No, that's not what you said to me that night. Yes, he is a misanthrope. The exact word you used was overrated.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now...
I thought Lenny Bruce was... Did I mention that night?
You might have. But I might not have let you get a word in edgewise as I have, or he mentioned overrated when I was using George Carlin to make some kind of point, and or he brought that up, and my point to him was we can feel that he's overrated or not, but George Carlin has, regardless of what we feel, our opinions, the man has established a point in comedy history. Regardless of what we say, our opinions are kind of almost irrelevant. And this escalated to, without, again, not knowing, because again, this is where I say alcohol, we've had frank discussions before, may not have agreed eye to eye. Am I correct?
We've had disagreements.
We've had disagreements before. When alcohol's involved, though, I'm not sure if those agreements would have had the same results where we would be leaving the bar, where we he doesn't remember. You don't remember, right?
What's that?
When we left the bar, you don't remember yelling at me?
Oh, we yelled.
Yeah, no, I didn't yell. You yelled at me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I wouldn't let him get a word in edgewise. And this goes, again, alcohol... I don't think is that good. Not saying it's not. I'm not saying like alcohol in general, but alcohol when it comes to comedians, depending on the circumstance. Because either I found it because I've been Mr. Party guy drinking with people and we all had a good time, but I've seen it and studying it now when I'm not drinking. It either adds an element of where people just it's a social norm. And people, when they're drinking, they all, it's, I don't think it necessarily breeds good comedy. It's one of those things that, because there's a lot of good comedians that are on the wagon, that quit drinking, and they had to consciously do it. And I think it has to do we have a lot of hyperactive minds dealing with a vulnerable medium. And, it's, I don't know, thoughts?
I'm open to suggestions. I'd be willing to go to a meeting.
Oh, no, I'm not saying you need a meeting. If you wanted to check one out, that's fine. But, I mean, I'm more talking about just alcohol and comedy. I don't. I think
I've seen. I can give you. There's two comics that come to mind who've both quit comedy, and both of them. One of them I think got better, a lot better, and one of them I think got a lot worse. Like, I had a comic that I booked that quit drinking, and after his show, the producer came up to me and said he should have a drink because that was absolute rubbish. He's fucking terrible.
I'm sorry about that performance, man.
That wasn't you, man. It was our good friend.
Who?
Funky Juan Medina.
Oh, Juan Medina. Oh, yeah, he could. Well, here's the thing. There's when it comes to there's people that I think where it depends on. I don't think it would have helped them because there's people like myself, where it doesn't relax us. Instead, it frees us to start saying what we're thinking with no filter even further, and even sometimes and expressing things that because like when I used to drink. Some of the instances that would happen in comedy or incidents, I heckled a comedian one time very aggressively when he was proceeding to do a lot of jokes that clearly he was bringing in the rape word, into an open mic set at an open mic that I was particularly fond of, but was probably going to end anyway sooner or later. But I was getting pissed off because I was signed up much later on the list when I was hoping my friends would sign me up. Nobody did. I was feeling very much. It was one of these things where at a place where I helped make the first one go well. I'm feeling like, oh, I'm not being appreciated at this place that I helped set a bar there on their first night, and now all of these comedians are rolling through, and people are kind of not picking their material wisely for an audience, and are just rubbing them the wrong way. So I yelled out repeatedly to this comedian, "You're surfing against the wind." Okay? I was drunk. But when I heard what I said afterwards, I'm like, that makes fucking sense. You're surfing against the wind. You want to surf with the wind. You're surfing against. You're gonna keep falling over and all. It makes sense. You're not going with the flow that you're not finding and establishing a flow, whatever. So, anyways, well, long story short, outside. As afterwards said, the comedians confronted me about it. I'm probably still antagonized and saying like, oh, you know what, whatever. Another guy gets involved who has done jail time. Is of the street nature, and I'm cool with them now. We're actually good buddies. But I probably made the mistake of saying to him, you know what, if I were you, I would quit comedy and focus on being a good father. That's probably what I always bring up because there's so many dads that want to. It's like, no one's put a gun to your head. Raise your kids, teach them well. All right, being comedians. You should have been a comedian first, then a father after you got all your desires out of your system and all this shit about I have kids and I want to do comedy. Oh God! My dad was doing insurance and he fucking made a monster out of me. So now you want to tell jokes and you want to take your kids to school. And there's some people I'm pretty sure that aren't that bad at it, but who knows? I don't want to do the research to find out. I just look at it like this: focus on doing something you do well, and if you have kids, tell them your jokes. They're probably your best audience. Anyway, they'll be honest with you. Like, Dad, you ain't funny. Yeah. And they'll cut those dreams right out. And besides, no matter what, even if you are proven funny and you have a career, even Kevin Hart, his kids tell him he's not funny. So look at that. Millions of dollars in the bank. Proven. That are paying for their food, their education, all that. Kids still talking shit to their father. So it's lose-lose. Me, myself, I have no kids. That's why I do comedy. So, not why, but it's good. You don't have any kids?
No.
See?
How did we got from...
I was talking about the dad shit. Oh, yeah, so being drunk at those mics. And another open mic, I picked a fight with two comedians I lost respect for that night and a homeless guy. So, alcohol and comedy... Is that when
you decided to quit drinking?
No, I didn't know. I needed a few more. Another night, I was being incredibly abusive, borderline, not so much racist. It's not racist when you start talking shit to Jews. But
It's anti-Semitic.
It's anti-Semitic. I wasn't being anti-Semitic, but as much as I don't even remember what I was saying, but I was definitely getting into this guy saying, you must be Jewish, whatever. I don't remember. All I heard was that I was pretty much provoking this guy into trying to fight me. This was at this one night. It was at the same night that I ended I lost the hosting gig of hosting at another place that became an open mic. My opening line was telling everybody that everybody should fucking leave this show, and people laughed too, like they understood. I was being really mean, and keeping it real when you're drunk takes on a different form, I feel, than when again, drinking, and when you do anything and you can't do anything well drinking, and if you do think you got away with it. It's not because you did a craft while you were drinking. That's like driving home drunk and thinking that just because you got home, you're a good driver. It's not. It doesn't fly. I mean, you're just lucky. You just didn't get caught. So that's and this is coming from a guy with 2 DUIs. So I know what I'm talking about there. But that's why I say I'm like alcohol and comedy, because we just. It's just, I don't know. I don't think it's healthy, because I mean I did plenty of research in that area, and I think it helped escalate a lot of my nerves, because I'm an aggressive guy and passive aggressive, but I hate authority. I don't like phonies. I don't there's a lot of behavior that I get sick of, just in people in general, and comedy is riddled with take your worst enemy, or all the people that annoyed the hell out of you at work. All the people that annoyed the hell out of you growing up in high school, all the people that annoy the hell out of you every day, now put them in a community where you're all trying to do the same thing. Now add alcohol. That's what the stand-up comedy world kind of is. And you make a few friends out of them too. But I'm saying you're one of the people where I do enjoy a good surly Andrew Roberts after a few brews.
It can work for or against me.
Yeah.
And for or against the crowd.
You enjoy though the being able to I would say you because you're one of the people that reminds me of when I watch you drink. It reminds me of why I liked to drink and to let the seething hate just flow. It felt good. It did. Felt like powerful.
Yeah.
Like Darth Maul. But then, like Darth Maul, you don't do very well, because he was one of the shittiest villains in all of the Star Wars series. He's only in one episode, and he looked so cool, too.
Yeah, the double-ended lightsaber.
And he got cut in half. That's the thing. That was his end. That was the story of it.
It wasn't even like a lot of blood. It was just kind of like a puff of red mist.
It was gone. 2 pieces. And it was such a build-up, too.
But then again, at least he was in Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people back then in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago that didn't even get mentioned. So that's how I feel. I'm just happy to be in Star Wars.
Okay, I understand.
If I get cut in half with a puff of red mist, at least I enjoyed the journey.
So anyways, I'm equating drinking to turning to the dark side of the Force. Just watch it.
I like to think of myself as the New Zealand guy, the Django Fett.
Django Fett? Oh, yeah.
Just a guy making my way in the universe.
Yeah, Django Fett. You know what's funny? I've actually said that who's that guy, Edward Snowden? The Edward Snowden guy who supposedly who's the whistleblower who basically said everything that's already been public record about the NSA, watching all our shit and whatever. He's actually, he's a double agent. And I would say Edward Snowden is the Django Fett of our current time. That he seems like he's some hero. He's not a hero. He's some other operation. This is some of the shit we were talking. I don't believe OJ did it either. So that's we'll go there too.
That's That's an interesting story.
It's not which one, the Edward Snowden or Django, or not Django?
I'm gonna get a cigarette.
He's gonna have a cigarette. When we gotta wrap this up soon.
I thought we were going to go for a full hour.
Oh, yeah, we are. But no, I mean, it's still going. I don't stop. I don't pause.
Yeah, I'll get a cigarette. Can you start?
Oh, you're gonna go.
You start with the OJ.
Oh, okay.
I'll get a cigarette. I'll have it.
Oh, you're gonna have it here.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
Alright.
All right.
You start with.
I don't need to start with the OJ thing.
I like the OJ story. I think it's fascinating.
Well, no, I don't believe OJ did it because comedian Paul Mooney, he had a bit about why I don't. Strangely enough, one of the reasons, basically claiming that he doesn't believe OJ did it because OJ wasn't smart enough to commit that crime. I agree. Also, because the crime was so overwhelmingly pointed. Like, if I was alive or not alive, I was a teenager when it happened. I felt this way about it too. The news media at that time, as I was raised on the news, they don't put anything on TV that they don't want to sculpt your opinion about. So therefore, already OJ was being prepped for being committed. Thought guilty. Yeah, sure. Thought guilty of these crimes before he was even tried. It was also unprecedented. One of the only trials that was where the trial itself was on television. So ultimately, yeah, I hope my folks, they watch these sometimes. Well, sorry, I'm smoking. Ultimately, the OJ himself, as Paul Mooney said, he didn't. When you look at just the way these murders were committed, they were brutal. It looked so much like they were too brutally at his doorstep. First off, second of all, one of the biggest cases that they made, or one of the lies that they were telling, was that Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were having an affair. Not true. They both were high-priced prostitutes. This is a fact in the case. Ron Goldman was gay, and they weren't having an affair. They worked for the same escort service, and the place where they were last seen together was the meetup spot for these escorts being hired. On top of that, one of the things that I think Paul Mooney joked about, which I thought was very interesting, is the fact that probably, more than likely, Mark Furman, the racist cop who sort of was like part of what helped botch this whole trial through his accused racism, he probably was fucking Nicole. He was probably the police officer that was banging her during whatever set this course of murder on its head. OJ, if he were to have committed those murders, those brutal murders, okay, that were so sloppy and messy, yes, he there's no doubt, it was basically set up to look like there was no doubt in anybody's mind that he absolutely did it. When you commit that type of crime, pretty much 9 times out of 10, I don't know, I haven't done the studies, but what is it we mostly hear when people commit these level of murders? They commit suicide right after those murders. They call it murder suicides. When you commit a crime that is so obviously you did, you're going to kill yourself. What did OJ do? OJ phoned up his buddy Al Cowling, or whatever, I think that's his name, got in a Bronco and took off with a handgun. Okay? He didn't, and he's been claiming his innocence this entire time. That is the behavior of someone who thinks that somebody is trying to kill him. So more than likely, whoever set these crimes up, which could have been the police themselves, because the CIA and whatever intelligence agencies that run drugs, that probably had at stake in underground crime involving prostitution, it is corrupt as fuck down there. And they probably, on some level, instigated or committed these crimes, set it up to look like him, and we're probably trying to kill OJ himself too, and OJ just got away, and now also it became too public, couldn't kill him right there on television, so instead what do? You obviously, he tried to send him up the river for murder, and that glove did not fit. One thing the glove did not fit. But
it's interesting.
It's interesting, but then ever since then, one of the biggest pieces of public jokery is that OJ, even black people believe that OJ did it, no matter the fact that he was acquitted of murder.
I think if you've been married, it's hard not to believe he didn't do it.
Yeah, but at the same time, this was a Hollywood marriage, and Hollywood marriages Hollywood is a sick, sick, sick place. It's been proven time and time.
San Francisco might be dark, but at least we're not LA.
Yeah. It's true.
That should be our quote.
LA's
Our tagline.
Yeah.
At least we're not LA.
We're not LA. Yeah, San Francisco. At least we're not LA.
Yeah, we're not LA.
Yeah. And I mean, San Francisco's got its underbelly too, but the fact being that it's just these kinds of things, the TV has a way of manipulating everybody's opinion on shit that they don't know anything about. And the fact being, even if he did do it, I don't want to believe it because the television is trying so hard to tell me that OJ did it. So I was like, you know what? Fuck you, television.
There's a lot of money in lies.
That's what, and it's true. And there was a lot of programming, a lot of advertisements that got paid from that whole case. So, long story short, which really was still long anyway, OJ, in my opinion, was not. He may know who did it. That's he may know what was. He definitely, whatever happened involved sex, drugs, money, that which always more than likely lead to murder. And no one will ever really know. And OJ's in jail anyway. He's in jail for bad...
Stealing his own shirts.
Yeah, stealing his own shit and some other stuff. But the fact that's a dumbass crime. That guy did not commit the crime that he's not... Yeah, he didn't do it. So, but he's probably understands who did. So, or has an awareness of it.
You know when people are coming for you.
What is it?
You know when people are coming for you.
Coming what?
For you.
Coming for you, yes. You know when people are after you.
Yeah.
So, well, on top of that, I'm looking at this book here. You read, I notice.
I've just started.
You just started a book called The Abortion.
I've just started to read.
Oh, you just started to read. The Abortion, an historical romance, 1966.
It's based in San Francisco.
Based in San Francisco.
Beautiful San Francisco.
So,
I've read 3 pages.
And how long are those 3?
I could take them or leave them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a lot of free time. I can't work 5 days a week.
You were mentioning that.
I envy people who can. I work with people who work 5 days a week. They go out, they party, they go to work the next day. They have kids. They have social lives. If I don't have time, I think you're the opposite. You want a little bit. You want 20 hours a week.
I would, yeah. I would love, yeah. It's weird because I worked 40-hour plus. I didn't mind it when I was younger.
Can I say?
Yeah.
I think a full-time job is the death of creativity.
Totally, especially if you're trying to be creative.
If you're gonna work, like, even though you seem like you're doing nothing, like if I only work 3 days a week and the other 3 days a week I seem like I'm doing nothing. Mm-hmm. Those are the times where you come up with creative ideas. Mm. If you're being ground down all week, it's very hard to come up with anything original.
I came up with a lot of stuff while I was working. Plus, one of my favorite things to do while working was figure out ways to not work while being paid. And I was somebody who actually enjoyed doing a good job, having a reputation of doing my job well. Mm. Who then also, once I would get disillusioned and resent any authority figure at my job or whatever, then it was like, okay, now I'm going to try and get by with appearing to do as much as possible while at the same time doing as very little.
You can multitask.
Yeah. That's one of the requirements of doing the old QA jobs I had. One thing I did this past week, I went to my high school reunion, 20 years. It's been 20 years since I graduated from high school, and surprisingly enough...
I saw a photo of you at school, sticking your finger up.
Yeah, that was in junior high. That was a junior high photo.
It's good to know people do not change. Never try and change. You are who you are.
I'm not. Yeah, I was just a kid trying to have a bad attitude when really and that's the thing. When I learned, and this is me even in my recovery, I've had a bad attitude for a long time. I remember that's one of the reasons why I didn't advance in Little League. It's one of the reasons why my attitude has always been fairly shitty, even under good circumstances. If things were even going well, I'd be like, well, they're going to end sooner or later. Every time if I see a group of happy people, I'm like, something, we're all going to die. Just something I got to throw in there just to
accentuate the negative,
level out any joy. And look, this was prior to picking up, the first, smoking weed, drinking, like, this is a long time. One of the things I look at now after being sober for, like, 8 months now, it's about 8 months this weekend, and looking back on my behavior, more or less, yeah, we're getting tired.
Nearly there.
Yeah, I've been compulsive for a very long time. Anybody who's watched this tubecast, and if you've watched all the episodes, I salute you. You will realize I'm compulsively talking.
I've never noticed.
Yeah, right. And so,
Cheap shot.
and also I compulsively, my brain always, again, you might hear that OJ shit. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Go get a drink, fall off the wagon, smoke some weed, Dave. OJ did it. All right, and you don't even know whether he did it. I'm not saying I know what he did. I'm saying I'm of the opinion that he didn't do it, based on my interactivity and my lack of reliance upon machines telling me what's what. Because guess what? We believe what's on our little phone devices, on our computers, on the television. We believe what these things tell us.
I don't really believe something unless I can look in someone's eyes.
Yeah, and whether things are the guy I was talking about earlier, the bad dad comedian, chronic liar. Again, chronic liar. I gave him the cocaine to snort, and he did not. He denies ever having that happen. And I'm like, well, I really wish I would have known that then, because then I would have never offered him any. It would have been my cocaine that night, And that's just being,
You can never get that cocaine back.
Never can, but I wouldn't want it back. I'm clean and sober now, so I'd just say that coke could have gone to somebody who would have appreciated it. Would have been like, you know what, Dave, you're a good dude for hooking me up like that. But no, not this guy. I even hooked him up with comedy sets where he got paid. Nobody pays this guy to do comedy. All right, and he did, and he had decent sets too. He had a decent set at these shows, and that's the thing that's really unfortunate when in comedy. This is a lot of this because it is a lot of personalities with this desperation that is reliant. When you were in school, and if any of you went to school watching this, when you saw people desperate to try and be funny in class, more often than not, nobody was funny when they were trying very hard to be funny.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to take a piss.
Now, exactly, or taking a shit when you don't have to take a shit. Take all of that, take that person, now multiply that person by hundreds, thousands of people, okay, and put them all in the same fucking room, waiting to all have their turn to go and try very hard to be funny. That in of itself, now add alcohol, add weed, add cocaine, add heroin, even to some of these fucking Mitch Hedberg, fucking one of the greatest wastes of stand-up comedy that everybody still puts on a fucking pedestal, the fucking dead motherfucker. So I'm saying all this shit, and all why? Just to make a joke, just to tell. Really, there's so many things that that anybody should be focusing on more worthwhile if you're not finding this to be a healthy medium for you. And there are a lot of people who I would definitely say, you know what, I don't think this is healthy for you.
You said that tonight, and every time someone claps, an angel gets its wings.
No, I said every time there's the old adage from It's a Wonderful Life. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Well, every time an aspiring comedian quits, good. That's my joke. So.
I think that's good words to finish on.
Yeah, it can be, but I mean, I don't want him to quit. I like watching Andrew.
You too, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff there. And you've been in the meantime. That is a good point to probably end here. We gotta get some rest because we gotta go do comedy shows for the 24-hour Cinecave show. Check out the tubecast this is like every week, 2 weeks when we make it. This episode was a lot of late night jibber jabber. Hope you enjoyed yourself. You've been in the meantime with the wonderful Andrew Roberts. This is not the WrestleMania edition, just the reused sign. See if you can hear the dog snoring. Nope, dog stopped snoring. Anyway, no, Bruce, his dog, was snoring right there. He shit in this very room, as a matter of fact.
That was a good story.
Yeah, he was like, he shit in this room. When he tried to hit on a girl and make his move, he stepped right in the shit, right as it happened, and it wasn't even happening.
Well, don't they talk about that in meetings, don't they, hitting bottom?
Hitting bottom.
I hit bottom when
Yeah.
I stood in my own dog shit in my own room while I was trying to hit on a girl who was not interested.
Not interested.
Not interested.
Yeah. So there you go. We can end on that. We're hitting bottom here in the meantime. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And check it out soon. The end.